Hello, listeners. Good evening to you all. You're welcome to this edition of my Liberation Gospel. My name is Ukachukwu Okorie. Wherever you are listening from, I welcome you. And I pray that from this gospel today, we will be enriched with more knowledge to do the needful, to seek for social justice, for the greater glory of our Father and for the upliftment of mankind. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Like I said, my name is Ukachukwu Okorie, and today I want to look at I said a report card on 21 years of democracy in Nigeria. Today Nigeria is celebrating their democracy day. Like if you are following me on this platform, never mind Facebook, they have issues with me. It didn't start today, so but normally I'm always here. It will still be spread to other social media platform, and you can deem it fit to invite your friends to share with us. This within the next hour, I'm going to give my personal report card on the 21 years of democracy in Nigeria. I call it 21 years. I think if you start counting from 1999, the beginning of this fourth republic, this is a fourth republic. Why do we count it as fourth republic? Nigeria gained independence in 1960. During that time until the 1966 coup was the first republic, and the second republic started after this the war between Nigeria and Biafra in 1979. That was when Olusegun Obasanjo came in as a military head of state, when he took reins of power after Murtala Mohammed was shot in a coup d'etat, and he handed over to Shehu Shagari in the Second Republic. Then Nigeria changed their system of government from a parliamentary system of government to a presidential system of government, to copying the American brand. Then the Third Republic. Third Republic was short-lived in the sense that during the time of the IBB, although many argue about that, but a civilian came on, Shonekon. You all know when Shonekon came on, when after much hesitation, he stepped aside, the Maradona of Nigeria politics, so to say, and Shonekon came on. But Sani Abacha now kicked out Shonekon. Sani Abacha, who was the defense secretary. You know, Nigeria, they've been trying to do a lot of experiments with their march on governance. Then Sani Abacha died, and Abdul Salam Abubakar took charge and ushered in the Fourth Republic, and that's why we call it the Fourth Republic. The Fourth Republic commenced officially on May 29th, 1999. May 29, 1999, the Fourth Republic started. It started with our Abdul Salam Abubakar handing power to Olusegun Obasanjo. I should call it their poster boy. In as much as many of you have seen the march so far, I didn't want to look as if from the beginning I'm biased against what is happening, but we've seen the march so far from 1999 till today, Nigerians cannot breathe. But first of all, it started from Abdulsalam Abubakar. Abdulsalam Abubakar, nobody talks about him today. But if you have been following political developments in Nigeria, and that was the first time I voted, and I just gained admission in the university. And this Fourth Republic, I pride myself as a keen follower of this republic, in the sense that as a first year student, I was very curious. I've always followed developments with Nigerian political issues, coming from a family that is into public service and stuff like that. So I read newspapers. I started reading from a very early age, and I've been following development. As a first year student, I went to Jos the first time during the PDP presidential convention. It was out of curiosity, so to say, and I followed a group of guys from Oka. You know, initially it wasn't weren't really going to Jos, but the movement was somehow, I wouldn't put it through wholly here, unless maybe when I'm doing my the second edition of my autobiography, I'll then write it. So I saw how it played out in Jos, how Obasanjo won the PDP primaries. But I should say the first time, that was the first time I voted. Many voters actually did not vote for Obasanjo, although he won the elections. But Nigeria, we've seen the way things have turned up today. It did not start today. The military ensured that Olusegun Obasanjo, who just came out from prison, he was a political prisoner under the regime of Sani Abacha. And to quote Ojo Zokalo once stated that when Obasanjo came out from prison, he didn't have up to 50,000 naira. And you need to see his pictures. You need to assess him economically and otherwise when he came out from prison. But Babangida and co plotted in Jos and handed him the PDP baton of power to fly the party's flag. And he won a coup. I was there. I saw, that was the first time I saw Nwobodo. He contested there at that level of Jos. He spoke in Hausa. I was at the stadium then. It was very cold. It was a first time experience for me to travel far to that farthest point in Nigeria, and it was very cold. I don't forget that experience, and that's the beginning of the Fourth Republic. It ushered in Olusegun Obasanjo from 29th May 1999 until 29th May 2007 under the political party PDP. Then Olusegun Obasanjo handed over power to Omar Yar'Adua from 29 May 2007 until 5th of May 2010. His tenure was short-lived because he died in office. There are a lot of conspiracy theories about his death. I don't know if we will have time to look at that. But many of you who followed events knew when he was ferried into the country from Saudi Arabia. They said he was on the life support machine, and the airport were the lights on the airport were put down, and it was darkness. You know, all those things that happened in Nigeria. He died although he was a better president than many of them, because he spoke, he was truthful, and to an extent, he was a better person. So he lasted from 29 May 2007 to 5th of May 2010. Then the doctrine of necessity brought in Goodluck Jonathan from 5th of May 2010 to 29th May 2015. And finally, we are in the time of Muhammadu Buhari. A lot of things have happened and is still happening. Let me just not jump to Buhari. Buhari, from 2015, 29 May, until present, despite the news we've been hearing. And so starting from Abdulsalam Abubakar. Abdulsalam Abubakar, we've been in politics. If you did politics in school, or real critical politics or history, or depending, you will understand that Nigeria has been held to ransom by Fulani hegemony. And when we talk about Fulani hegemony, they've been in control of politics and power right from the end of the Nigeria Biafra Civil War. In the sense that either they are controlling power directly, or they are just on the corridors or behind the scene, remoting whoever is in charge. And we call that the Fulani hegemony. They've been controlling power, but this time around, they came out fully, and we've seen the worst of them, with nepotism and co. Abdulsalam Abubakar depleted Nigeria's foreign reserves. If you were conversant with development, then you know what Nigerians passed through under Abacha. Abacha was draconian. Abacha was dictatorial. Abacha did a lot of things. He consolidated the loss of the June 12th elections, in which MKO Abiola died. MKO Abiola, today, June 12th, the Nigeria remembers the election in which he won, though free and fair. Then, although he had a shady character, but because of his philanthropic character and the manner in which many Nigerians came out to vote for him, a lot about the man MKO was swept under the carpet, or is still being swept under the carpet today. But MKO was in prison when Abdulsalami came on, and Abdulsalami depleted the Nigerians. Were all it was as if everyone was begging him to just, please, don't provoke these military people, let them just hand over power and stuff like that. So Abdulsalami Abubakar was spending, he was a spendthrift. The usual northern politicians, they were just spending our money anyhow, just to, we were pampering that regime, we pampered that regime, so to say, for him to hand over power. And they brought out their poster boy of Olusegun Obasanjo. You remember Olusegun Obasanjo was a deputy to Murtala Mohammed, and he was one of them during the Civil War, and they gave him power, knowing fully well that after that he will hand it back to them. And Obasanjo won Olufalaye. Obasanjo won Olufalaye from the same region. He won with 62.6% in his first term. And to a great extent, you know, in Nigeria, a lot do happen when politicians do the needful, they beat their chest. So we account many things that are being used today was created by Olusegun Obasanjo. I wouldn't say he didn't try. In the standard of Nigerian, if you are putting up a report card or assessing Nigerian leaders, you will say he, to an extent, he tried, but he was a very selfish leader. He was very, very selfish, and he committed a lot of blunder, and there was still corruption during his time. But I mustn't fail to give him credit for some structures of government, mechanisms of governance, and parastatals, however you may put it, that he put in place that are still being used today. We talk about the Niger Delta Development Commission, the NDDC, although NDDC did a lot of projects, but it's still a conduit in which many have siphoned money off the coffers of the country. NDDC was established by Olusegun Obasanjo. The ICPC was meant to tackle corruption. It was established by Obasanjo. Then the EFCC that we talk about today, EFCC, they did a lot, but like the usual political scenario in Nigeria, or the usual scenario in Nigeria, EFCC has always been an attack dog on political opponents. Obasanjo used that. He used that to attack his opponent. He set forget about the letters he always writes when he's out of power. Some of the things that happens to the Obasanjo did, that it's just that in the current regime it's been worse. But Obasanjo, we saw all manner of terrible activities during the Obasanjo era. Rigging of elections, killings, political killings, silencing of freedom of speech and expression. It happened during his time. But like I said, there are still mixed reactions or mixed feelings. There were still developments too. The GSM came on during the Obasanjo time. If you remember, before that, before the beginning of the Fourth Republic, there wasn't anything like liberalization of mobile telecommunication, GSM. You remember Nitel when we were small, it was a big deal to have. It took long time, months, to get in telecommunication into your house, and there was no GSM. Then it was Obasanjo that introduced GSM. Let us not remember all the things that went under its introduction of the MTN from South Africa, and the massive bribery and kickbacks that followed then. But we all talk about the role GSM played in opening up the Nigerian economy. So it was during the Obasanjo time that it came on. Then Obasanjo did more by opening up the Nigerian diplomatic space, because under Abacha there was a lot of problems Nigeria had. Remember, Abdul Salam Abubakar didn't last long. He came on at the death of Abacha in 1998 and left in 1999. So he had little time, and most there were pressures on him to hand over power. So he was more in his time were taken more by organizing structures of handover, and he was busy, siphoning money, because during his time he depleted the reserve. So Obasanjo made a lot of travels, opened up diplomatic space in Nigeria. Nigeria was, prior to his time, a pariah nation. There were sanctions. I remember the Commonwealth sanctioned Nigeria. Abacha put in draconian policies. Many of these politicians that are parading themselves today, that are the problems of Nigerians today. Many of them ran to exile. They were in exile. Wole Soyinka was in exile. Tinubu today, that is one of the problems of Nigerians. That Tinubu helped usher in Buhari went on exile. You remember there was a strong organization that formed opposition to Abacha, and they called NADECO. NADECO, many of them were involved in NADECO activities. And when Obasanjo came on, Obasanjo he tried his best by pushing up Nigeria's foreign reserve. Nigeria's foreign reserve rose from $2 billion to $43 billion. $2 billion in 1999. Like I said, Abdul Salam Abubakar almost took the country to cleaners. He was just, he took a lot of money from the coffers in the guise of transiting Nigeria from military to civil rule. And Nigerians never cared. Everybody wanted civilian rule, as if we are going to, heaven is going to come down on earth. It will be paradise at the end of the day. Abdul Salam almost liquidated the coffers. And when Obasanjo came on, Obasanjo rose, he moved the external reserves from 2 billion in 1999 to 43 billion in 2007. And at the same time, the oil rent, there was a surge in oil price during that era, and the rent collected from Nigeria's oil rose, and he increased the rent he paid to states. You know, Nigeria shares its money according to the three tiers government: the local government, the state government, and the federal. The federal takes the largest share. This thing started after the end of the Civil War, in which they recruited Nigeria according to states, and started sharing Nigeria's wealth from landmass, forced population, and many things, because the people that owned the oil wealth, in which many foreign powers came in to fight for Nigeria, the people that owned that was the eastern region, lost the war. And as such, because before the Civil War, Nigerian resources, every region managed resources. Nigeria had 4 regions: then the western region, the northern region, the midwestern region, and the eastern region. So when the war broke out, Nigeria was now structured into states to make sure. And why was Nigeria structured into states? To make sure that the eastern region are not together. And that is why you see the balkanization today. You see Cross River, Rivers, Bayelsa, everybody, Akwa Ibom, everybody has now gone apart. And these are part of the plans, you know, to make sure that the eastern region doesn't have that cohesion, because that is where the bulk of the resources that drive Nigeria comes from. So Obasanjo's power era continued. Like I said, he paid off Nigeria's loans during his time. He did some good works, so to say. I mustn't fail to give him accolade. But you know, Nigeria is a place where, like I said, when a political leader does the needful, he will be beating his chest as if he's done a miracle. There are many other things, corruption and stuff that he told the parts. There was this, it's still an issue, controversial issue of $16 billion to electrify Nigeria that disappeared. They still talking about it, but you know, this is Nigeria, anything goes. And today, Olusegun Obasanjo, that came out as a political prisoner during the time of Abdul Salam Abubakar, is stupendously rich now. When he came out of prison, he had nothing. He was he looked emaciated. If you search for his picture, you see him very well during his Thanksgiving. And quoting Ojo Zokalo, former governor of Abia State during that time, who is now a senator, who was just released from Kuje prison. He said when Obasanjo came out from prison, he didn't have up to 30,000 naira in his account that he loaned. He gave. He was part of the contributors that sponsored Obasanjo to become president of Nigeria. And Obasanjo tried to amend the 1999 constitution for a third term. He tried to amend the constitution to have a third term in office, but he met roadblocks. He met opposition. The Nigerian media went hoopla over that intentions. And I remember during that period, he tried to curry the favor of the East by promising the East a 6th state if he will be supported. Unless many of us do forget about these political developments. Like I said, I've been following Nigeria's political developments. I wrote a book on Nigerian political history called Nigeria Whips. Some of these things, you know, though I don't have a copy where I am now, but I don't forget that these things are very fresh in annals of history. So there's still a reference. You can, although he keeps denying that with his interviews, but some of the political actors that he talked to about the third term agenda confirmed that actually he had that intentions. That he went as far as providing about 10 billion naira war chest to distribute to legislators. You remember about the Ghana Must Go bags that I think there was this balance that Nigerians usually. It was Olusegun Obasanjo that started sharing money to legislators during this Fourth Republic. During his time, it was a public gossip. So, and there's another reference onto this, the third term agenda. You can check out Condoleezza Rice. You know Condoleezza Rice, the foreign secretary, I show, yeah, to George W. Bush. She talked about Obasanjo's plan to have a third term in office. She talked about it in her autobiography. If you look at that book, pages 628 to 638, she talked about Obasanjo's intentions, that Obasanjo discussed it with Bush when he visited Bush in the White House, but Bush rebuffed that and told him to hand over, that he shouldn't do that. And Ojo Zokalo in 2005 submitted a petition to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission against Olusegun Obasanjo, but they didn't push forward that petition from Ojo Zokalo. There were many other things that Obasanjo did, and he committed blunders. He was the one who handed over Chastello to The Hague. You know, he was promised a top international job if he cooperates with The Hague, because Chastello sought asylum in Calabar, and the manner in which Chastello was arrested, though Chastello did committed crimes, there are many African nationalists wondered why he did that. He betrayed he betrayed Chastello. Chastello is seeking asylum in Nigeria. He was granted asylum, and suddenly Obasanjo turned his back on him and handed over Chastello. And today Chastello is still in prison. I think he's in the Scandinavian, in one country or so. So it was during the Obasanjo time. Obasanjo was a selfish man. He's still a very selfish man. He's one of the people, he keeps writing letters when he's out of power. But he had the opportunity to fix Nigeria. He had many things that went on for him, because when he came on to power, when he came to power in his second time as a civilian leader, Nigeria had lots of graces from the international community to perform better, and many Nigerians looked up to, had high hopes that this return to civil rule is going to better their life. But Obasanjo's era was marked by election rigging, ballot stuffing, killing of opponents, and many things. Let us forget about the letters he keeps writing. During his times, Obasanjo rigged elections. He kept rigging elections, and he intimidated opponents, and he was very selfish, in as much as he used some good heads to push forward some important policies for his administration. There were some other things he would have done, but out of selfishness, he didn't. So Obasanjo handed over power to Yar'Adua. Yar'Adua ruled from 2007 to 2005. 2007 to 2010. So it was the 5th May. And he died in office. Though there are mixed commentaries about Yar'Adua, but if you observe him on a personal note, he's a very good man, in the sense that he was the first Nigerian president to declare his assets. He tried to show example. During his time as a governor of Katsina State, between 1999 to 2007, they said he did well. They said so far his records are unbeaten, but unfortunately, like I said earlier on, the Fulani hegemony still holding Nigeria power. Power levers tightly pushed him in. He was brought in he was handed over power by Olusegun Obasanjo. If you remember his brother, his senior brother, who died during the Abacha time, Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, he ran for president during the Babangida era. If you remember, during the SDP and NRC era. So this is his younger brother. And Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, the senior brother, worked with Obasanjo when Obasanjo was a military leader. So you see the link. So that's why they trusted Obasanjo. That was why they handed over power to Obasanjo. And Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, he had strength in public offices before he became a president, but he was very sick. and they said he suffered from pericarditis. I'm not a medical man, so pericarditis, and he did his best, especially with the issues of the Niger Delta, because during the Obasanjo time, the Niger Delta conflicts started going up. That was why, you remember, Obasanjo established the NDDC in order to ameliorate some of the issues growing heads in the Niger Delta area. They call it Niger Delta. You know, these are political terminologies. There was a talk I gave on the Niger Delta. I said, who are the Niger Deltans? If you talk, there are political Niger Delta and the geographical Niger Delta. It's if you delve into it deep, the political Niger Delta, you call it, you can call the states that produce oil. You will even count Ondo, because there are Ejos in Ondo State, the Elajes. And many of you may not know what's this guy's name, the owner of Sahara Reporters. If you look at, there was a day I was checking on him. He's actually Ejo from that area in Ondo State. Many doesn't know. So we have Ejos in Ondo State, and they are the oil producing people in that Ondo State. Hence, Ondo State is in NDDC, the Niger Delta, political Niger Delta. So you can imagine, but these things were created. You know, they are harped on in order to divide the people of the old Eastern region. If you look at ancient map, you will see that these people are all the same people. If you study as a historian, I've done in-depth research and study of that area, and that's why I recommend many people to look at. If you follow my page on Facebook, I try to bring out pieces of history and information relating to that. So Yaradua came on and started the amnesty mechanism in order to step down the restive nature in the Niger Delta. You remember when Mend and Co, they started blowing up the pipeline, the Asari, the Kubot, the and Co. You know, many of them now became so rich, the Tompolos and Co. They were all blowing the pipelines, derailing Nigeria's oil output. And you know, Nigeria oil is the mainstay of Nigeria's economy. So it had a big hit on Nigeria coffers. So Yaradua came on, and Jonathan was brought in to become his vice, and he used Jonathan to negotiate with militants in the Niger Delta to have peace. So we commend Yaradua for, there's something that is commended. We commend him for declaring his assets. He's a very good guy when it comes to being transparent to an extent. But you know, coming from that Fulani oligarchy, it's tough. Even if you want to be nice, they may not want you to be that nice. And as such, they held onto the man, even when all indications pointed to the fact that Yaradua may not survive it. They didn't want to inform the world that Yaradua was no more. It took the strength of Dora Akonyele, if you remember. It had to take Dora Akonyele to inform the world what was going on, and before doctrine of necessity came on, and Jonathan became the acting president. So during the Yaradua time, he marshaled out, he came to power on the back of a 7-point agenda. But let me just point these regimes, then before I do a general analysis, because in Nigeria, in as much as Yaradua came to power, most of the elections in Nigeria were all rigged. We know that, and that's why, you know, the foundation is not strong. When there's not transparency, it's hard. When good people are not elected, of course, there's not going to be productive. Things are not going to be properly done. Governance, it will be a caricature and a joke. And as such, Yaradua's time ended. He died of pericarditis. He was flown back from Saudi Arabia, and his though it was announced that when he came on, he was on life support, and they had him in life support while his wife Turai, you remember the wife Turai Yaradua, and a cabal, the way things are going today in Nigeria, ran office and held Nigeria hostage until Dora Akonyele now opened the can of worms and said, no, enough of this bullshit. We can't continue to deceive Nigerians. And that was how the Senate, even hesitating, they now did their doctrine of necessity, and Jonathan took power finally on the 5th of May 2010. Jonathan's era lasted from 5th of May 2010 to 29th May 2015. Jonathan, many of you do know from Bayelsa, in as much as there's a lot of criticism against him, but the recent happenings today now vindicates him, though he was weak. But his weakness was he tried to be civil in many things. Irrespective of his achievement, there were enormous corruption during his time. There was immense corruption, but his time was characterized by insecurity. There was massive insecurity during his time. It was then Boko Haram. Boko Haram reared its ugly head. Thousands were annihilated. People were killed. Villages were sacked. And at the time, Boko Haram controlled large swaths of land in the northeast. And if you remember, during the time of Jonathan, it was the first time the police headquarters was attacked, and it was the first time Nigeria witnessed a suicide bombing. And remember too, the United Nations building in Abuja was there was a suicide attack. But Jonathan just rose from nowhere, you know, a very cool-headed man. Came from Obuya in Bayelsa State, was sworn in 1999 as a deputy governor to Diepre Alamesia. You remember Diepre Alamesia, the one that dressed like a woman and escaped from prison in London or so. So I just took a sip of water. So Jonathan rose from becoming deputy governor of Bayelsa to governor when Alamesia was charged for money laundering and impeached. From then, he was chosen by Yaradua to become his vice president. And a cool-headed man, he took his office coolly, negotiated with militants in the Niger Delta to lay down their weapons and to stop fighting as a part of a government amnesty program. And when Yaradua became incapacitated, Jonathan, on February 2010, became acting president. And it was then his time took on. He took on and went to the 2011 presidential election, defeated Muhammadu Buhari, and continued. But he had issues. Other ones were subject to analysis. There were many things that encumbered him from performing. International conspiracy, the Northern Agenda. If you remember, Jonathan at a time made a statement that some members of his cabinet were sympathetic to Boko Haram. You can imagine the president of Nigeria said that members of his cabinet were sympathetic to Boko Haram. And it is on record too that Muhammadu Buhari, who later became president, made a statement when Jonathan's efforts against Boko Haram were paying off. Jonathan's efforts through the Chief of Army Staff, Ihejirika, they waged a serious battle against Boko Haram, and it was at the time it was very successful. And it was during the Jonathan time Boko Haram did a lot. They did a lot. They killed and killed. You remember the Chibok girls and many other conspiracy. There was a northern conspiracy against Jonathan. If you still recall, during the time of Jonathan, northern governors went to the White House to report. You can imagine. To report Jonathan to Obama. And Obama welcomed them. And this is a man who is so civil. The northern governors went to the White House and reported Jonathan. And there was a lot of things that happened. The Nigerian media went hoopla against Jonathan. Professor Wole Soyinka, Pastor Tunde Bakare, many of them. They talked about, they formed organizations, Save Nigeria, and Occupy Nigeria came on. There was in fact, many hands that came together to pull down Jonathan. Despite the fact that Jonathan recorded achievements, during his time, it was his time, Ebola. The Ebola epidemic, we suffered that, and he tackled it. He tackled the Ebola epidemic. The Nigerian lead poisoning incident, if you remember that, Jonathan even assigned $4 million to assist in cleaning up villages that were affected by lead poisoning. Do we talk about the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act? Despite the pressure from the Obama administration and was it Cameron and co, Jonathan stood his ground and followed the popular path of not putting it into law, and he dared their consequences. During the Jonathan time, he established universities. There are many things that he will be remembered. He tried to educate the Almajiris, the northern kids that you see begging with bowls all across northern states, to set up a public education system for them. Even the Fulani headsmen, he tried to educate them, setting up convenient educational facilities for them wherever they are doing their grazing. But there was a gang up against Jonathan to leave power. All those gang ups are what we are suffering today in Nigeria. But there was something that was remarkable about Jonathan foreign policy, and that was what he was driving at. But unfortunately, the Nigeria of today doesn't talk about that. According to Jonathan, he said that Nigeria's foreign policy must be reviewed, that it will be citizen-focused, that the concentric circle, the Nigerian foreign policy must center on the citizens. It must have a citizen approach in order to accord the vision of defending the dignity of man, giving it the highest priority. I mean, despite the fact that there was a lot of problems with his administration, he had good intentions, but very weak to implement them. You will see that his weakness in the high rate of insecurity during his administration. There was massive insecurity. You remember the October 2010 Independence Day bombing in Abuja. There were still many other bombings by Boko Haram. The Abuja, like I said earlier on, the Abuja police headquarters, the United Nations buildings in Abuja, and Christmas Day Boko Haram Christian church attacks, in which they attacked Christian churches in the north. So all through his time, he came on, there was insecurity, and he had sympathizers of Boko Haram in his government, and as such, they sabotaged efforts. You remember even on April 14th, I think 2014, in which more than 200 school girls were kidnapped, and a lot of sabotage happened under him, even in Jos, many other issues. But on the economic front, internationally, he pushed Nigeria to become the largest economy in Africa, despite the fact that Nigeria has been rated today as the poverty capital of the world. Under Jonathan, Nigeria became the largest economy in Africa. It overtook Egypt and South Africa at that time. And and the oil revenue, though they were spending massively, because there was embargo on Nigeria then. The Obama administration placed embargo on Nigeria, so it didn't work for Jonathan, and as such, they were looking for where to access military hardwares in order to prosecute the war against the jihadists in the northeast. But all the same, it was all these things, particularly the insecurity, that gave rise to the media frenzy against Jonathan and the gang up between the north and the core north. When I say the north, the core north and the northwest and the southwest to remove Jonathan. That was how Buhari came into Buhari that have lost election many times, and not only that have Buhari that was the spokesman de facto of Boko Haram. Don't forget that Boko Haram at the time said that Buhari should negotiate. If they were asked who will negotiate for them, and they mentioned Buhari, they said Buhari should be the one to negotiate for them. And, you know, under Jonathan, we saw how Boko Haram reared its ugly head. And at the end of the day, Jonathan never listened to advice as a, as a civil man. Even his aides told him about the INEC administrators, that they were biased. Things told to that way, underage were used to rig elections, the usual things that happened in the core north. And Jonathan handed over power to Muhammadu Buhari on the 29th of May 2015. And since then, we have been, Buhari has come back again. A lot of things have happened, and there are issues throwing up with developments. What happened today I listened to the broadcast of the IPOB leader and the pictures he was bringing out, the what he called the deep fake pictures, are the deep Photoshop pictures that are coming up. And if you look at it, in a very scrutinous way, you will see that most of these pictures they are bringing up are photoshopped, and that is what we are seeing today. This Buhari time, a lot has happened. A lot is still happening. There's insecurity, nepotism, unemployment, and poverty has riddled Nigeria. So it's a tragic situation at the moment, because we've seen the way things are going. First, Buhari came onto power as a sick man. It took him 6 months or more to appoint his cabinet. And appointing his cabinet, that cabinet is appointed has not been changed till this day. And these things point a finger to tell you that something is wrong. We have not seen a government that appoints a cabinet, and the government has exhausted its first life and its first term. The second term, apart from the former Minister of State for Petroleum, the Delta man that was quietly removed, others are still in power. But it's unfortunate to look at the Buhari regime, because the Buhari regime so far has been doing badly. It's riddled with insecurity. They've been killing. The insecurity, although it's been there, but it has continued in multi-dimension now. The Fulani headsmen, not only Fulani headsmen, Fulani have been emboldened to do more. We've seen the rise of Mieti Allah, Cattle Breeders Association, that the federal government has now given a group 100 billion. No, such a thing has never happened before. We've seen government appointments tilt towards nepotism in broad daylight. they are no longer hiding about it. They are no longer hiding about it. It's something that is now in the open, and statements are being made. Government is just is now a caricature. I don't know if I should start analyzing the Buhari regime. All of you are seeing what is happening, except the fact that some who are benefiting from the government have kept quiet. But so far, it's been like it's been it's been from one issue to another. It's a tragic situation in Nigeria, and this is a country we have 50 million kids. In a space of 1 year, over $28 billion has been borrowed. In a space of 1 year, the so-called this Buhari regime have borrowed $28 billion. You know, just rendering the reserve to naught. I don't really understand what to say again. It's been from one borrowing program to another, and this is a country that have more than 100 million youths. We don't know what is going to happen because at the moment Nigeria is sitting on a cold room. The Amajiri system has moved on. This COVID-19 pandemic has added to the problems of Nigeria. We are envisaging a crisis in the country after this COVID-19, because the COVID-19 is restricting many not to come out. But if the restrictions are lifted, we envisage problems across, because there's massive poverty. The borrowing programs, infrastructures are not getting attentions, and the appointments are nepotic. We've seen all those in charge of parastatals and important. They are from one side of the country. So 21 years of Nigeria's democracy is suffocating Nigerians. Nigerians cannot breathe. The current government, is driving its policies through lies and propaganda. There's great deal of social injustice. Judges are no longer reliable. We've seen government, they don't obey court orders. Elections are rigged, and the chief judge was changed, envisaging that there will be a problem at the judiciary. The chief judge on so from Cross River was changed before the case got to the court. And the killings in the Middle Belt has not abated. Khan has been rendered moribund. There was a statement that was issued by the spokesman to the presidency, Shehu Garba. He said the group agitating for the Republic of Biafra, IPOB, is now championing the cause of Christians in Nigeria. And today, Nigerians are celebrating Democracy Day, remembering MKO. MKO, the man who won a free and fair election in 1998. In 1994. So how have Nigerians fared? How have the country fared during this 21 years journey in democracy? It is It is unfortunate, so to say, in celebrating Democracy Day, when there's no freedom of expression, when there's consistent insinuations, or let us call it allegations, that the president died in 2017, and that if he is not dead, that he should come out and field questions with reporters, which he has not done since that time he was rumored to have died. And from every indications, we've seen the photoshops. Those who are accusing the government of the day in Nigeria about this has gone further to prove it, that all the things, all the informations coming up are doctored, the pictures are photoshopped, the videos are photoshopped, that if the president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, says he's alive, he should come out and field questions with journalists. But unfortunately, Nigerians are not asking that. The press in Nigeria has been hoodwinked. Most of them sidelined. The DSS, the internal security system of the government, are now arresting opponents. There's no longer freedom of expression. There was a journalist in Owerri that was just arraigned in court for calling the governor a Supreme Court governor. The governor, Senator Hope Uzodinma, who took fourth during the gubernatorial election in Imo State, now became the substantive governor, somebody who took fourth position. Many things that are happening in the country today, there are things that will they're like stories that will be in moonlight tales, but unfortunately they are happening in Nigeria this day. We've seen the few days ago, more than 80 people were massacred in the Northeast, and nothing is happening. Nigerians are not protesting or demonstrating against it. Unfortunately, the same Nigerians protested against the death of George Floyd in the United States of America. So the 21 years of democratic march in Nigeria, how has Nigerians failed? How have they failed? From my report card, Nigerians haven't fared better. It's instead it's like from frying pan to fire. Things has gone worse in Nigeria. The youth's orientation has gone down. There's no employment. The economy is stifled. The government keeps borrowing and borrowing and borrowing in the name of putting down infrastructures, but unfortunately it is not happening. The government is all about lies and propaganda. The worst of it is insecurity. We've seen massive killings and going on, and from every indication, the killings are going to be worse because the government has lost it. We saw a neighboring country, Chad, coming in to do their job against Boko Haram on their behalf. And we have not heard from the vice president. The current COVID-19 presidential task force is being led by the secretary to the federal government. Unfortunately, the vice president is supposed to be at the helm of affairs in the absence of the president, but we have not seen Professor Oshinbajo, And the videos and the pictures that was published by channels have been discredited by the IPOB. They discredited it, and they showed it in a credible way that these things, the videos and the pictures were doctored. So we keep asking that question: where is the vice president? If he's alive, he should address Nigerians. If Buhari is alive, Buhari should field questions with Nigerian journalists, as it is done. We've seen in many countries during this pandemic how leaders field daily questions with their journalists. I think Nigeria is at a precipice at the moment. Everything is going bad. We've seen the Fulanis, they are emboldened. The headsmen are now moving into the eastern region, old eastern region of Nigeria, settling in forests without recourse to doing the needful or buying land. They are seizing lands, armed, raping women, and killing whoever dared them. Remember, the Miyetti Allah was given a war chest of 100 billion naira by the federal government. Something that we cannot think of happening in Nigeria before. It is happening today. But all the same, thinking of revitalizing Nigeria or pushing the country forward, it is, even if an angel comes down today, as an elder statesman once said, that Nigeria cannot be fixed because we've seen the way things are going. Or else I would have said to create wealth in Nigeria is not a big deal. Through credible laying down of infrastructures across the country, you still provide jobs and enabling environment for people to thrive. The power issue, electricity to generate power in Nigeria, these things can generate millions of jobs. Liberalizing the ports, everyone goes to Lagos. I heard the other day, I read it from the news that the ports in Onne are being used, but in Nigeria, especially in the life of this government, it's been all about lies and propaganda. So we do not believe them. We can still be transparent if we want to be better. Needless talking about saving saving the situation, because those at the helm of affairs wouldn't want to save the situation. They wouldn't want to. If they want to save the situation, they know what to do. First of all, by being transparent, but they cannot be transparent, and hence whatever they talk about on the grounds of policies, most of us are not listening to them. They can speak grammar and jargons on diversification. I listened to the broadcast today, the democracy broadcast. Those things are speeches. It's not happening on the ground. Nothing is happening on the ground. There's poverty on the ground. There's no leadership on the ground. Things are not the same. On the ground, there's fear across the land. On the ground, people are mobilizing in self-defense. They fear Fulanis who are invading or trooping into the country from northern borders, taking up their land. We've seen Dangote trucks ferrying them across into deep eastern part of the country. We've seen them hiding in these trucks. If you are coming to do genuine business, why are you hiding? Why are you coming? There's no excuse for hiding in massive numbers. And we've gotten intelligence reports of catch of arms being dropped. The way they are being dropped for Boko Haram in the northeast. They are doing that in many forests, in different parts of the forest in the old eastern region. So, needless talking about how Nigeria can be fixed, because we've seen the government of the day doesn't want to fix the country. They are not accountable to anyone. The legislatures are not doing anything in the sense that it's now a rubber stamp legislature. In the space of 1 year, they've approved $28 billion is a rubber stamp legislature. So these 21 years of democracy in Nigeria, it's a march that Nigerians have not fared well. It's a march that have reminded Nigerians that they need to come together and decide the way forward for themselves. It's a march that will necessitate a tent to your tents, O Israel. It is a march that has woken them up from slumber. It is a march that if they don't redress the wrong path they have moved, they are going to walk into death and oblivion. It is a march that Nigerians have not fared well. And it's a march that has kept Nigerians breathing through a life support. I think there's no need talking much. My report card on the 21 years journey of Nigeria's democracy is that of a disastrous result. It's a failure in the sense that things have gone from bad to worse, and now to worst situation. Nigeria is at a precipice. Things have gone bad. People must have to prepare for any eventuality in self-defense. The government is a government of lies and propaganda. We don't need to listen or depend on the words of this government, because this government, let me quoting a senator, a current senator in the National Assembly, say, he who live by propaganda will die of propaganda. This is a government of propaganda. And so, the Democracy Day remembrance, it's no need for sober reflection, because going into sober reflection, you will think that things can go well, but the way we've seen this regime going, my people will say Mekwata Adeya. It is a disastrous journey. It will be tough to get Nigeria back, and as such, my report card is a report card of failure for Nigeria, starting from Abdulsalam Abubakar. As usual, nobody even remembers all those ones after siphoning all our money from the reserve. He's going about today acting as African statesman, monitoring elections. Whereas we talk about Abacha, the way Abacha loot is bringing in lumps of cash, though they are sharing, they are relooting that loot. Nobody remembers Abdulsalam Abubakar, the likes of Abdulsalam Abubakar. These people went to public office and became stupendously rich. We don't talk about them. Who remembers the Babangidas? These people looted the country dry. And this is why we can't continue with this Nigeria, because it's just the status quo continuing Imagine, in the last 1 year, this so-called Buhari cabal have borrowed over $28 billion, and they're going to share it. When they just churn out grammar and statements, you think, but we have overgrown that. We are used to them. This is the worst attitude of the Fulanis, but it is good that Nigerians are seeing that these are the people without civilization, people who can't achieve anything. We read some of their stories in social studies because they won the war by deceiving the rest of Nigerians, and they talked about the Fulani Caliphate and so forth. And Fulani Caliphate, they only ended in that they are corners. They want to ride on the back of Nigeria to extend their influence across, but it will not happen. So this 21 year old democracy in Nigeria, it is a journey that it's in futility. It's a journey that is regrettable, but it is good that we've seen the worst. We want to get things going on our own terms and on our own parts. There's no need anybody talking about presidency on moving to any other section of the country. The story will still be the same, but it will not happen. I said it earlier on that the worst thing was Goodluck Jonathan allowing Buhari to take power. I said it. I wish I recorded it. I recorded some of them in during some talks. Maybe I'll look up to it and get the excerpts, because I know that the Fulani, I know they are drunk in power. Unless they die in that power, we think they are smart. But smartness is because Nigerians are cowards. That is why people think they are smart in politics. How are you smart? How are they smart in politics when they are doing the wrong things? When they are killing? When they are rigging elections? When they are not creating wealth? When they are snuffing? It's because many Nigerians are not interested in politics and in who rules or not. They just want an enabling environment for them and peace to thrive. But at the end of the day, politics is about who gets what and how and when. Even in the homes, even in churches, you see it today. Every facet of life, there's politics, and we must be interested in how we are governed. So I rest my case. We've seen that from my brief analysis, for want of time, from Abdulsalam Obasanjo, Musa Yar'Adua, Jonathan Goodluck, and the cabal that is running on behalf of Buhari. Is been a terrible journey. However, we might see some of the good things. The good things we see are things that we shouldn't even pray or fast for. We need they should form part of the basic necessities for citizens, and as such, this Fourth Republic in Nigeria's democratic life is a journey of failure and a journey that is regrettable. Thank you for listening to me. My name is Ukachukwu Okorie. God bless you.